writing twists isn't the trickiest thing to do, I would say, but I mean, if it were easy to do, we would see a lot more, at least interesting stories as we get Goizo, medical history, random item stats. So I'll talk more about that because this is going to be an episode about writing. So, or as much as I can while I'm trying to focus on not dying as well. But let's see, Goizo, medical history, we'll move on, and yeah, we'll see what happens. So, injuries here, not so great, but as we actually get into Goizo, medical history, character exclusive, random item, custom character once more, yeah, we're going to talk about writing. So, Goizo is pretty standard, but medical history can be oof, and so can random item stats. Dexterity, second mystery, Takushi-san, strength, knowledge, and maybe a charisma check? It may be every single stat check, no second encounter. Definitely Takushi-san in the middle, though. But we have, going over the character quickly, 5 strength, 7 perception, 7 dexterity. Notice that I skipped dexterity there. That's because I am biased towards dexterity, but 5 knowledge, 6 charisma, and I don't know how much luck. We start with the soft drink, and then we also start with the third eye spell, which is unfortunately only good for a mystery. Now, if you end up healing reason right after using third eye, then it's great, because that extra point in perception, if not just knowledge, or both, can be used for weapons or for events. But other than that, yeah, we'll move on. I could have used third eye and healed reason there. That is, again, like I said, it's a nice little boost, but in this case, I should have actually just used it. I'll try to remember that for next time. But yeah, writing. So the reason I'm talking about writing is we get footage and nails, mermaids, labyrinth, and writer is that, yeah, I've gleaned over some stories lately as I'm trying to write my next story for a game, and I realized just how badly it can go when you don't have control of essentially your twists. And by that, I mean when you set up not a wish fulfillment character, but basically a character that's meant to be, relatively successful. You can't have them just failing out of nowhere. Part of this goes into the topic of just foreshadowing in general. I didn't grab a weapon, by the way. Foreshadowing in general, but even with some foreshadowing, there are some swerves, basically, to put it in my own terms and definitions. There are some swerves that you really can't do, that if you come out of nowhere, it's definitely going to hurt your audience most of the time. Unless, of course, the intent was to set up a twist. But oftentimes, that's not the case. Oftentimes, you may hear this in the writing scene, or if you look up tips, but the topic of adding in shock value, from what I've seen, doesn't go too well. I'm not saying it can't be done. We know a video game that's come out that has done that successfully. But for that game, there are also 3 games for every good game, including that one, that don't do it right. So, for example, a very common example is killing off characters, or that's an easier example to think around. Oh my goodness, my words. And yeah, killing off a character doesn't go so well. Another example that I've run into a lot more, as I roll an 11 on strength, is that you have a character fail at something or struggle with something where it kind of doesn't make sense for them to do so. More particularly in the genre or the, how am I supposed to say, the atmosphere that you've written for your novel. For example, another example of this is that if you're writing, and this is a very broad brush, and there, again, I would say it's not a majority, or it's not a majority of time. Basically, in my opinion at least, a majority of the time, if you're writing an isekai, you're usually going into wish fulfillment. Now, that's not always the case, and I would say about 30-40% of the time, especially if you're, setting up a kind of dark story, a tragic story, then yes, it's not going to be, you're not doing a wish fulfillment where the protagonist wins like 80 to 90% of the time, even though that's kind of what we see 80 to 90% of the time, but, or at least what I see. But again, not most stories, and it depends on what kind, again, what genre. It's not, you're not always, I should just run from this, by the way, this is too much damage. You're not always writing a fantasy isekai, or a modern isekai, or a sci-fi multiverse type things. Again, though, I'm going into this mostly because these are the types of stories, light novels, manga, so on and so forth, that I've experienced the most of. But particularly more for writing, I usually focus on fantasy. So when you're writing fantasy, again, I'm not saying there are a bunch of good grimdark or just even fantasies that end up killing off characters left and right, but usually in those cases the atmosphere has already been set. And by that I mean in the later 50% of your novel you can't just change your atmosphere drastically. most of the time. It takes a very, and if nothing else, your ability to do so is proportionate to your ability as a writer. Period. That's the end of the sentence. Again, I'm sure the viewer right now, I'd be willing to guess most viewers or people who would hear me say such things like now can think right now than I am now. I'm going crazy. I can't. Self-proclaimed writer, by the way, can't speak well. But, yeah, most people can think of a few examples. That's what I'm trying to say. Let's just agree because we're going to take this. I think we handcuffed this. We have Labyrinth, but hopefully we get something good in our next level up because otherwise we're going to die here as I try to focus for a moment. Oh, we can still be fine, but yeah, it's going to take a lot. Might want to grab a pack of cigarettes, all things considered. That would allow me to brace comfortably into a good attack, but... I don't know this character's perk packs. We didn't get anything to note. I'm actually gonna reroll here once. Random spell, sure. I could also start running ally attack, but usually I want to do that at the beginning of the run. So yeah, I think a very specific gripe was having a character not mull over, but basically be tortured by an experience in the story that I don't feel did the story well. The said author was known, or just in general, an author who's known to do things like that. Still, in this specific instance, I don't feel it helped the story. But I mean, I'm not gonna say the story is still bad because of it, or that one moment, or a few moments like that. But I don't know. And I guess at this point I do attribute it, a lot of this I attribute to myself not really being satisfied with more than a few stories that basically put their protagonist or male lead or female leads down. It's something about it doesn't feel right. Again, I don't have the exact explanation. I could go into specifics into what exactly happened, but that would be spoilers. And as much as that sounds like a coward's way out, it's like, Jordan, you should mention specifics. You should bring up receipts. It's like, I still want to think about this in a general way, and yeah, it would also be spoilers. But I'm sure there are other few reasons, but I'm also trying to focus on the gameplay. Again, that sounds like an out for me to not talk about what I want to. Also, this is a 24 HP, 2-reason ghost enemy. But, yeah, we have the reason here. Do I want to take this? I could. We lose about... Yeah, we lose 2-reason overall. Yeah. We'll take this. Hopefully this grants me some experience. So note that, well, so some of you may be wondering, well, if it's a ghost enemy, the power value doesn't mean anything. Well, you do have characters and bonuses, if you use custom characters, that allow you to fight enemies normally, so... But that being said, usually I'm going for prep attacks anyway, so to me, it matters less. But that doesn't mean it's not a significant variable when fighting ghost enemies. But anywho. Moving on, so that's because Ghost Connection, right? Also, we got another spell. Steel of Bromel. That's knowledge, right? Yeah. Well, I guess we'll try to survive with what we've got. Yeah, let me focus for a moment to try to not die. I'm going to take the middle door and lose stamina for it. Cool. I'm actually going to rest. I don't feel comfortable here. Even if it costs 5 Doom, I think it's worth it. Now, 10 Doom is a bit much, but let's see if we can even survive this. If I can just walk away, then we have to fight the Seer anyway. And thankfully, I don't have the second encounter in my lighthouse in the lighthouse, because I forgot it by now. But yeah, 40 HP, 3 all. This is by far one of the most hard-hitting bosses I've ever run into in a custom mystery. Aside from story, and aside from, I think, 1 or 2 more mysteries tops. Because of nothing. Oh my goodness. By the way, what's my accuracy? 60%? We're just gonna have to roll on it. The 3 all damage is way too much at this point. Swollen joint, I don't care. Yeah, so we're gonna take all the medical history pain to the face, but if we don't, we just end up dying straight up, so yeah. But anywho, there are other things. I think another example I can think of, oh my goodness, we just have to go until the end, I guess. Hold on, let me just try not to die. 60%, by the way, I've missed like 75% of these attacks, probably more than that, so we just have to dodge, and I hope we survive. So I'm actually going to do another run. I usually try to save myself until... I usually, only start a second run if I don't finish the second mystery, but, I mean, we missed weight. We actually just needed to hit 2 more attacks, and then we had a good way out, but That's not what happened, is it? So, into a Goizo World of War 3 custom mystery runs, but this time no medical history. Not that it mattered. It was just pain. So I gotta figure out what to do. I think I'm just gonna try to run ally attack, see how that goes. Yeah, see how that goes. Now, knowing that we are on a thingamajiggy, we are on a World of War backstory, so nothing really too dangerous, but, yeah. Gonna still talk about writing, let me just focus for a moment. Second, charisma, light, dexterity, no Takushi-san, just knowledge, just pain and stamina. But we do still want to run ally attack. Basically, if I didn't already say it already, then scary story recruits are probably going to be the way to go for me moving on. Because I've thought about it before. Yeah, scary story does allow for some guaranteed recruits, but then I deal with the event RNG. So until I run into a lot of bad RNG as we get Flood, Kana, Phantasms, Television, and Cult, we're going to take Kana first. Normally, I should not do this. Actually, no, we're going to go through this. So if we run away, we run away. We have Goizo, so running away is advised anyway. If there's anything you want to learn in this video, then on Goizo, running away is a lot more number-friendly. And for those who want the exact numbers behind it, it's because if you take, aside from experience, if you want experience, then you still want to fight and just rest. But if you don't need the experience for whatever reason, or you want to run away from a bad fight, more importantly, then taking, say, 4 all in an encounter in Goizo, you have to rest twice to heal that 4 stamina and 4 reason back, and that would be 10 Doom because you're on Goizo. If on a non-Goizo run, it's 6 Doom instead. So that 1% extra Doom increase for running away instead doesn't mean as much as you're also getting experience. If you want to take 4 all in an encounter, I don't, but we're going through the theoreticals here. And yeah, so if you just run away on Goizo, you essentially save 4 all. But again, it depends on how quickly. If you're Kana with Mind Drain, if you're Aiko who can 2-tap enemies and you only lose -2 all, then you still want to fight the enemy. But that's what I mean by you're still... Yeah, you want to usually rest on Goizo if you want to save on resources in total. But if you need the experience for whatever reason, sure. So we'll do 1 reroll here. If for no other reason, then getting part of the Ghost Ritual can help. But if you can't recruit anyone else, then we Scary Story and lose 10 experience. And even if they lower my Charisma, so be it. Actually, if I got... So I made a mistake here. So I got a point in Charisma here. I should have tried recruiting again. I don't know if that resets basically the chance. Because basically what I mean is, so when you ask a student to join, does that stop the student from coming again? If you were to say, right after they say, I tried to recruit this female student, then if I move on to a male student here, and then I recruit them, and in this case they gave me Charisma, can I go back and try again, basically, now that I have an extra point? But at this point it's a bit too late, so off we go. Army Knife, 4 damage though, so never mind. We're just gonna grab allies. So yeah, ally attack, good call, because if I had gone for Army Knife here, we would be doing a lot less damage. Yoichi is nice, but again, we're not using funds, pretty much. And now we get 14 damage on demand, and as long as we increase Charisma, hey, if this character has Fame as well, that would be great. But from what I know, the one perk pack I saw seems to be Magic Caster, and if we have the other Magic one, it's not specifically a Magic perk pack, but you get what I mean. There's another perk pack that adds in another spell type perk. So this character could have all of them, but we might just run ally attack in this run. Especially with Goizo, where we want to fight things anyway. Or in Flood, where we're going to, well, fight things anyway. No, OBS, don't freeze on me, please! I see you going crazy because these eels, even though I'm on lower special effects, are hurting me. But yeah, back to writing things as we kind of autopilot this next part, because we're in Flood anyway. But, there's something to put... Yeah, there's another example of basically switching point of views. There was a story that switched point of views a lot. And basically kind of just gleaned over events that you might have wanted to hear over... or wanted to read about over basically a second-hand account from another important character, but I kind of see where the author is going. I didn't read... Because usually a lot of authors like to put in like notes before, after, or... You know, I look out for authors' commentary myself at times, but before I did that, reading through the story, yeah, the story went through a very significant event that would probably have been, I mean, if we're trying to analyze characters' emotions and which characters you want to be in the mind of during an event, I don't think it was the right play there. But this is what I mean by, you know, you make decisions as a writer and you swerve, and then to me, it didn't feel right, but to other people, it was just fine. Again, I'm not saying that the story was bad. It was actually pretty good, but there were head tilt moments, basically. I should not have done that. I should have actually rested. Now I might die because of this. I was supposed to actually just rest. Now we only get to rest twice, I think? 3 times. Okay, that... We still might be okay, but, I mean, that's all I really have to talk about writing-wise. There are a few other examples, but... one of them is a prolific story, from what I know, and the other one is definitely a prolific story. Not already including the time, and yeah, we don't get the... So, just really quickly to tangent here, back to the game. You don't get this combat damage if you're running ally attack, which makes me kind of sad, so... Hey. That being said, ally attack is great for Flood if you have it prepared, because, yeah, your odds to hit in Flood are pretty good, because you're usually doing prep ally attack. If you're doing 2 ally attacks back to back, it's a little iffy, but still 14 to 16 damage, if not more, per turn in Flood is pretty good. But anywho, so yeah, if you haven't heard me say it before, there was a very, very, very significant story. I'm not going to name it. I might have named it in the past. We'll just keep it general for now, where I didn't actually like the ending, even though it ended relatively well for what it was. And again, this is a very, this is a very, very important, or a very well-known series, I'll just say. And it ended, but, yeah, the ending just didn't sit right with me. So, that's all I'll say on that. So we have 3 things: Phantasms, Cult, or Television. All of these are going to be bad. If I get the Ally and Cult, it's going to be weird. If we get Phantasms, we have fights if we fail. But I'd rather fight this boss here now than in the 4th Mystery onward. Keep in mind we have extra Doom, but again, that's Doom that I need to keep for... if I really need to rest or run away. And keep in mind, we do have the Hermit right now, but we might be low on reason, which is what we need to trade if we want to lower Doom by letting go of the Hermit. Also hurts our ally attack, so that'll happen at the end of the run. But what I'm trying to say here now is that a lot of things that will hurt my ally attack will happen at the end. So any Doom I spend here isn't going to be so bad, but it still could be bad. So off I go. Yeah, and then we have Third Eye for extra reason healing. I should just get rid of it now. We don't really need it. If I somehow get knowledge to 7, then I'll kind of regret it, but... And that's a very specific thing, too. So, in case you didn't... in case I didn't go over it really quickly, which I probably didn't... hold on. Let me think. Of thinking. We'll go for this 80%. So, say I have 7 knowledge, and then I reach the lighthouse, and then we have a knowledge check. Essentially, you're trading the... I was supposed to grab the hand tips, by the way, it's too late. Theoretically, you grab the... Or you lose 3 reason to keep 3 stamina, which is something to think about because there are enough lighthouse checks that hurt your stamina for it to warrant you trading off reason. That sounds funny because I talk about losing reason the most in World of Horror, but in the case of the lighthouse, that's one very, 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 and still relatively minor exception. In hold on, yeah, in surviving, basically. Wanted to say something else, but I'm looking at this right. So again, something to note here is that this does change whether or not you free Kimiko correctly. And this is kind of even just the variability I'm looking for in custom mysteries. You don't even need to do much, even though adding in a sprite here is a little, it is a work. But yeah, so the difference here is that if you fail, you're just fighting the boss here, and I think he does stamina damage instead. But now that we've cut Kimiko free, we get we take reason damage instead, and we have Kimiko as a sprite here beside us. And then yeah, graphic wise, you add in Kimiko here if you save Kimiko. But anywho, we should be able to 2-shot this encounter if we do everything, if we hit everything correctly. If we don't, we're only losing -1 reason, so I don't really care as much. And then we have a soft drink as well. But yeah, 12 experience, but I'll take that for 2 turns, for 2 reason damage. So, as we move off into probably Cult right after this, just in case we have to fight a boss. Actually, we take Charisma, so we can do 2 ally attacks if we can. That way I don't have to run away either. And on the flip side of resting to heal stamina and or reason, just both, you can try to save off Doom and then rest at the lighthouse, because the lighthouse is not affected by anything. So you can still do that, and lighthouse rests are better than Goizo rests, I believe. Basically, any negative modifier to your base rest is going to make resting at home worse than the lighthouse. There aren't very many just strictly negative effects. If you have that make resting at home still better, unless of course you're about to die. Of course, that is something important. We want to grab this. Nope, we did not. You have to fail to grab the ally there. Yeah, that's all I have to say. Luck. Okay, good. And let's actually visit this police station. I'm just gonna say the forest again, and off we go. I was gonna say something. Oh yeah, resting. So, aside from maybe hot bath is the last thing I wanted to say. If you get hot bath, but you get like fetid fumes, then you can still rest at home and feel, you know, good about it. But if you're looking number-wise, I'm pretty sure last I checked, or calculated really, yeah, it's not really worth it to rest with any negative modifiers. If you can spare the stamina, like if you have 2 stamina and 1 reason left, rest. Like you don't want to just lose the run immediately, as I've said, which takes priority. If we're looking at a priority of systems. Nice 11 roll on luck by the game, trying to sneak that past me. But, yeah, risk dying later rather than risk dying sooner is what I've mentioned. And I think that applies here. But, as you'll see right here, if I stay relatively healthy, I'll just continue moving on, and then I'll rest at the lighthouse. Because then I know I have a better chance of surviving. And in fact, this boss doesn't have high power. But, you know, if we miss a 94%, then the game can change. We can actually miss this and be in bed. Okay, I was about to say, like, I basically don't want to take any damage on a Goizo run. This is very specific to Goizo, too, so keep that in mind. If you're not on Goizo, I mean, some gods, you want to do a lighthouse rest focus strat anyway, in some instances, but usually that's not the case. And into Phantasms I go, where I could just end up losing a bunch of Doom anyway. So, but 10 stamina, 10 reason. In this case, if I were to give you advice, I would say, try to survive with what you have, unless you fall, again, rule of thumb, if you fall to like 4 stamina, 4 reason, and or below, then yeah, you probably want to think about resting. But while we're sitting here, we'll move on. What are stats good for? Like, if we just look at those 2 luck checks I did, and I rolled 11s in both of them, by the way, and I think one of them had a modifier, but that doesn't change the... Like, if you roll a 14, which is not possible, but just if you roll a 12, doesn't matter what your modifier is, because you probably failed. But anywho, we're just going to do this. So we can guarantee 1, and then we do another ally attack, and hopefully we get out. We have a high chance of 1 shot. I was about to say, if we rolled a 12 both times, or missed Old Gods Forbid, man. That being said, I could have switched to the hospital here, but let's get the buff so we can just take a bunch of... Like, I've rolled 11, at least, in 3 events. Well, if you look at them in, like, a pigeonhole, the odds of that happening are less than 2 to 3%. You realize that, right? I'm pretty sure, but anywho, let's just take this Doom in the face. We can still rest and survive the run, but... Yeah, we have 12 luck right now, or no, sorry. We took stars alright. I should have taken it earlier then if I was really worried. I think I could have taken it earlier, but because I know I was sitting on a level up for a moment, but a lot of buts because I wanted to add something on because I'm so flabbergasted right now. We're just gonna skip this, by the way. I could fight this to be fun, but I just want to try and survive on a Goizo run. What is that was the end of the mystery, and actually I could have fought that boss. It's been a while since I fought that. I'll think about it next time. But anywho, yeah, so we definitely could have just fought the boss. But better to be... I mean, if you're just trying to survive a run, there's no reason to do it. If you want to feel better about yourself and feel cool, sure. But, hey. We did what we did. So, we did Kana into, I think, Flood. And off we go. Yeah, I could just mash through this, but let's, we'll just go through it. So, yeah, without further ado... Hope you've at least learned something, if not about anything else than you've learned about me. And yeah, I will continue doing what I do. We do have this second encounter, by the way. I'm just gonna say the sweaty. I feel like I fought something. No, the boss. No, I'm going crazy. Well, I think we took like footage at the very beginning, so I don't know why I took that. Basically, if there's nothing else on top of everything that I have said before, if you have Flood as your second mystery, you must have at least fought the boss as your second mystery, if not the sweaty assailant. It could not have been anything you fought after Flood, is what I'm trying to say, which the boss of Television was probably not. I did not take Television first. Anyway, before my brain goes away, let me just thank you for watching, and I'll see you later. Bye! Support me if you want to. Oh!